Hey, King Tut.
Hey, beautiful. How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm actually really excited because this is the first of a four-part series,
Right.
as you know,
Yes.
and it's about your life.
Okay.
Okay? So I want to take it back to the very beginning. I want to take it back from your childhood, but from the earliest memory till about 12. Can you do that?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay.
I could try.
All right. What's your earliest memory?
My earliest memory, maybe when I was probably about 3 years old, I had this little horse. And I remember when I was a kid, I had a fire truck.
Okay. So toys.
Toys.
Okay.
Toys.
You had shared something with me that was profound, and it was when you were about, I want to say around 7,
Mm-hmm.
and your brother had, he was attacked and robbed.
Right.
Can we start from there?
Okay, we can start from there.
And why I want to start from there is because I thought it was very profound because the feelings that you shared after seeing your brother attacked.
Right.
But please share that story.
Well, this had to be like, maybe in 1970,
Okay.
71. I know I was a very young child, and my older brother, he he was like a teenager at that time, and he I'll never forget my brother. To start off, I like to say he had this coat, and it was a maxi. It was leather, white leather, and blue suede, and I'll never forget when he came in the house and he had this coat that he got, and it was just a beautiful coat. It was like a coat that you would see on the Mac or
Okay.
on Superfly. And I'm looking at this coat, and in my mind, I'm thinking in my mind, I'll never forget, like, yo, this coat looked like trouble.
Mm.
Because it was like a coat that was made for a baller. And he was a young teen. And this was like a big boy coat, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And
Can I just ask you, because I didn't start off with asking you this because I already knew it, but I have to assume people don't know. Where were you guys living at the time?
we were living in Cypress Hills Projects in the East New York section of Brooklyn.
Okay. And this is in
For,
1970s.
yes,
Okay.
yes. We lived at that time. Now I live in 455. My family, we lived in 445 at that time.
Okay. All right. Continue with the story.
And so one evening my brother, him and some guys went out to a party. And when they went out to the party, they all got dressed and they looking nice. I'm a kid. I'm looking at them, I'm admiring what they wearing, you know, they in good spirits, and they go out. So the next morning, I'll never forget waking up and coming into the room, and I see my mother. She's doing her thing with helping my brother heal. She's wiping blood from off of him, and because at that time my mom, she was like a nurse's aide when we was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So she did some form of nursing, but she was wiping the blood off of my brother. So when I came in the room, I didn't know exactly what was happening, but I knew what blood was. And I seen that there was a whole lot of blood. And I came in the room and my mom was like, I was like, Mom, what happened? And she ended up telling me, that my brother got jumped.
Mm.
And during those years, there was gangs in our communities. And we had gangs in our area. But if you leave out of our area, you'll end up encountering groups of guys from other gangs.
Mm.
And what had ended up happening,
What are the names of the gangs?
there was gangs back then, Tomahawks.
Okay.
We was from Tomahawk territory.
Got you.
But then if you go on the other side, you had groups like the Jolly Stompers and different groups and other gangs, And he just so happened to be in Jolly Stomper territory.
Got you.
And him and a group of other guys were together. And when they were encountered, the story that I got was that they asked him for his coat, and he wasn't giving it up. And because he didn't give it up, he was beaten with all types of shit. Chains, pipes, bats. Back then the gangs, they did have guns, but they did a lot of physical fighting too. And they would carry all types of stuff. Machetes, axes. I mean, they used to carry all types. They did a lot of hand-to-hand combat and with weapons, close range weapons. And thank God he survived it. But while I was in the room with my mom, she told me, that he got jumped. And I wanted to know what happened. And she said that they wanted his coat. So I thought they took it. But then she directed my attention to where the coat was at. And the coat was it was bloody. Everywhere where it was white, there was blood. And it messed me up. Because in my mind, I was like, damn. Because I see the coat is all ripped up in shreds. So I'm saying to myself, I'm trying to, I'm young, I'm a baby, but I'm trying to understand what he went through. And I'll never forget, I went over to my brother. And I was like, and I asked him, I said, yo, man, why you didn't just give them the coat? And he said, because it was mine. And when he said because it was his, I said, okay. If it's yours, you don't give it up. Even if you might die for it. And I was really, really hurt, deeply hurt, because he had some other people with him. And instead of these other guys supporting him and going out like he was going out, they left, they ran, and they cowered, and it gave the advancing crew opportunity to get the best of them, And those guys were also shared the same faith that my family shared. And it just made me, it just really, really hurt me. Because, I just couldn't understand that happening and the way it happened.
Okay, so would you say that experience shaped you and turned you into a person that didn't want to ever be a victim?
I'll say that that experience not only it made me afraid. It made me afraid.
It made you afraid.
Yes.
So you never wanted to be afraid.
But in being afraid and watching my brother, it made me come to the conclusion that if I ever had to be in a position like my brother was in, I'll be ready.
Okay.
And I'll be prepared.
Because I'm trying to understand from that moment of you being very young, 6, 7 years old, right?
Yeah.
Seeing what your brother went through, the fear that you felt, what was the turning point when you said, I'm going to become the bully and the robber and I'm going to take? Did it come from that incident or did something else happen in your childhood to make you take on that persona?
Oh, there was a number of things that had happened in my childhood. I'll never forget that even when I was a little kid, I got robbed for a bike by some grown men. And I'll never forget, I was riding the bike, and it was a brand new bike I had. And my mom used to tell me, listen, don't leave these projects. And I was a hard-headed kid. So I used to always leave anytime I got a chance to do stuff. But this one day, I'll never forget, I'm riding this bike. And I'm riding down this block called New Lots. So as I'm riding, I see a car pull up. And there's two grown men. So I look at them.
How old were you about?
Oh, then 10.
Okay.
About 10 years old. And yeah, like maybe like in 5th grade.
Okay.
10 years old. And
were you a tough kid at that point?
Yeah, I was a tough kid.
Fighting.
Yeah, always.
Getting in trouble.
Getting in trouble.
Thought you was a little.
Yeah, so that's why I would leave out. Because I used to be like, it was the worst that could happen. But I'm not going to lie. I went out there, and as I'm riding this bike, a car pulls up to me. Boom. So I see these two men in the car, and they looking at me. But they're looking at the bike. And I'm looking at them. So I just turn my head, and I keep riding. But I didn't realize that one of the men got out the car while it was moving. And ended up grabbing me in the headlock. And pulling me off the bike. And when he grabbed me in the headlock and pulled me off the bike, the other guy, I'll never forget, because I'm watching the other guys putting the bike inside of the trunk. They couldn't even close the trunk because the bike was too big. But they put it in the trunk, and then when the guy let me go and ran back to the car, and they just drove off. And
after that?
To be honest though, in my neighborhood, it was a normal thing. I mean, robbery, I'm from Brooklyn, New York. And when I was growing up, the name of Brooklyn was Gunsmoke.
They called Brooklyn
Brooklyn Gunsmoke. So I always seen criminal activities going on within my community. I didn't know why, exactly why, but it seemed like it was a normal thing. So me getting caught for my bike, the most painful thing was I had to come back home and tell my mother that I got for my bike. Because it was a gift.
From her?
From her.
Oh, wow.
So.
And because of her faith, you really didn't get many gifts.
Right.
So that really was sentimental to you.
Yes.
Oh, wow. And how did she respond?
She said, I don't know how she knew. She said, didn't I tell you not to go outside of the projects with that bike? And I was like, yes, Mom, you told me. And she was like, okay. But I said, I'm going to get it back.
Now, how did you think you were going to get it back?
I thought that maybe if I traveled around, I was going to see somebody with the bike. And I'll figure out a way to get the bike back. But I never got that bike back.
Okay.
That specific bike back.
But you got some other bikes.
Oh, yeah.
So you started
taking bikes too.
Taking bikes too. Okay. So from the age of 10, Now, do you think that was when it became like your thing to start taking things from people?
No,
No.
I was younger.
Oh, you were younger. Okay.
I used to take stuff in school.
When you say take stuff in school, pencils, pens, like what did you take in school?
Well, sometimes kids bring toys to school that they're not supposed to bring. And I
Gotcha.
take the toys. Sometimes pencils, pens, whatever.
Why
You
would
know,
you particularly go for toys?
because we didn't really have those toys.
Okay.
You know, we didn't celebrate certain holidays, and we always had things, but for some strange reason,
Mm-hmm.
I used to want toys.
Mm.
And when I seen a toy that I could get, I'll get it.
Well, that's not a strange reason. You were a kid. Kids
Yeah.
like to play with toys.
hmm
Yeah. Okay. So, you knew, of course, that it wasn't right for you to take other kids' toys,
Right.
but you didn't care about
I
the
thought they didn't need them because every year they're going to get more toys.
Okay. Okay. So every year they're gonna have birthdays. They're gonna have
So yeah,
Easter, because even
Christmas.
Easter you get a little
Yeah.
two in a basket.
Right.
Christmas, and because you couldn't celebrate those things, you felt like it was your right to borrow a few things from these people.
Yes.
Okay.
And because a lot of times I used to, when I was a kid, when kids used to be celebrating, I used to feel like they was rubbing it in my face.
Mm.
Because the faith that I came from, I used to have to you go to people's houses, you knock on their doors, you let them know who you are. You sometimes if they don't come to the door, you continuously knock on their door.
Mm-hmm.
Or you continuously come back. I mean, I would knock on your window.
Mm-hmm.
I would figure out a way to make your door go to the back while I sneak in the front to accomplish my mission.
What was your mission?
My mission was to get the attention of the person who lived in the house so that they could either buy a watchtower on the wake
Mm-hmm.
or verify the fact that we did come to your house. We gave you a warning about God.
Mm.
And whether you take heed to this warning or not, at least I could verify that I came. So that's how it
And you
was.
were doing that from the age of what?
Oh, my whole life. I was born a Jehovah's Witness.
Okay.
So I would
So
do
in
that.
retrospect, you lived a double life.
Absolutely.
Okay. Because you were stealing toys from people of other faiths that celebrated
Yes.
the holidays, but at the same token, you were the person knocking on their doors, their parents' doors,
That's right.
to try to convince them to come to your faith.
I used to see kids that I had fights with. I come to their house and they be like, this is the guy that, and I'd be like, look, I'm just here for whatever. And when you're a kid,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to understand why you're doing what you're doing.
Mm.
Because when you're a child, you don't think, you don't feel like you need that much training and studying and things like that when it comes to like godly things, because children are really like innocent
Mm-hmm.
and they really just want to enjoy their life and have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, they do their homework and stuff, but you don't expect for adults to try to make you live up to the same exact standards as they live by.
But also, what I gathered from a lot of the stories that you told me, because I always wanted to know how you became so articulate and how you were able to command such attention, but people actually called you the general later on in life. And you explained to me it's because you did a lot of speaking inside of the church in the Jehovah's Witness, and as a young kid, you were doing these like almost sermons.
Yeah, well,
Is that how
at
you
that
became
time in the
great
Kingdom
orator?
Hall, well, my mom
Mhm.
used to speak to us a lot, and my father did.
Mhm.
And my dad, he fought in 2 wars.
Mm-hmm.
He was a Marine. He was a hardcore dude. He ain't
Mm-hmm.
playing no games with us. He was very articulate.
Mm-hmm.
He was very serious. So part of me learned how to speak from my father.
Okay.
Because when you spoke to him, you had to know what you were saying
Mm-hmm.
and mean exactly what you're saying.
Okay.
But with my mother, I learned a different part of communication. Her being a spiritual person, she helped us speak in metaphors, theoretically, and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So she would use the Bible. We would study the Bible, and we would study other books that was connected to the Bible. As we start aging, and we're preteens, but we're youngsters, but she's pitting us in different classes in the Kingdom Hall.
Okay.
And, going in field service to speak to people, you have to be kind of articulate
Okay.
in order to communicate with someone.
Mm-hmm.
But there was also a thing called the ministry school. And the ministry school is when a person become part of the ministry.
Mm-hmm.
In the Kingdom Hall that I grew up in, there was a hall 1, a hall 2, and a hall 3.
Mm-hmm.
And in these 3 different halls, they were different sizes. Hall 1 was a very large space.
Mm-hmm.
When you speak, the Kingdom Hall held about 300 people. But when you speak, you probably be speaking to at least 100 people or more.
Mm-hmm.
Then Hall 2, it was much more smaller space where you might be speaking to maybe 40 people or 35 people. And then you might have Hall 3 where you be speaking to like maybe 15 people or so.
Okay.
Like that. And when you're young, when you're going in field service, when you're doing your watchtowers and awakes, you're studying different books, and your relationship with the elders and the people in the Kingdom Hall, you can gradually go from speaking in Hall 3 and eventually end up in Hall 1.
Got you.
Which is the big stage.
That's the big stage. And you've spoken on the big stage quite a lot throughout your history in your religion.
Yes, I've spoken on the big stage.
Because I say all this to say you are an amazing orator now at this big age. And it surprises me, it amazes me, I marvel at how you are able to just speak from the top of your head, no notes, no memorization, just everything coming at once from your heart with such conviction, where people feel you, and it's just natural to you. And that's why I began asking you, well, how did you learn to speak like this? And you told me throughout the years of your incarceration, you have always spoken in different large groups and settings and had to, talk inside of the groups and mentor people. But I knew it had to be some other form of training. And this is when you started telling me about your early years.
Right.
That's when I said, that was my aha.
Okay.
That was my aha moment. Okay. So I'm so happy that you shared that with
right.
us. We are now at what age now? Because now I discovered that the 10-year-old you, when you were off for the Bible.
That was the time when I was speaking.
And that was the time when you were speaking.
Yes.
That also basically turned you into, I'm getting my bite and everybody else's bite. Like you turned into the young stick-up kid that you were to be later known for.
Yes.
Out of Brooklyn.
Right.
Right? So, when did it turn violent?
It was always violent.
When you found guns, because...
Well, my father always had a gun.
Got you, because he was in the military.
Right. My brother always had a gun.
Okay.
I had a friend who by luck or chance came up on weapons. He knew that because when I was young, I always wanted to be a Marine. And us young kids, when we communicate with one another, a lot of times we tell the other kids what our desires are, or what our hopes for the future, or our dreams are. And you know, I used to always be like, yo, I'm going to become a Marine, and I'm going to go out in service, and I'm going to fight for the country, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. And I had a guy who was older than me, and he introduced me to weaponry on the level that I had personal access to it. And I never realized, you know, how fanatical I was over guns. Because when I was young, my father used to tell us stories from when he fought in the wars. And when he used to tell us the stories, he used to make them seem so romantic. You know they're going through hell. You know life is being lost. You know there's bloodshed. You know that there's fear. But at the same time, there's this moment that seemed a moment of victory, that make all the bad stuff that they went through seem like it was well worth it. And
pride almost.
And pride. But my mom, being a Jehovah's Witness, always told us, you're never going to be in anybody's military. You're never going to fight in anybody's war. The only war you're going to fight in is the war for Jehovah. So, you know, when you're a kid, and my father and my mom, they were like polar opposites. You know, they had some things that were similar, but if you studied dad and you studied mom, you would be like, it's unbelievable that these two are together cohabitating, you know? And that introduction to the guns was my invitation into a war that I wasn't ready for. But, okay.
I'm so sorry. I just wanted to stop you right there, because you know I told you in the beginning we're doing a four-part series.
Right.
And I just want to stop you right there.
Okay.
And get ready for part 2.
Okay.
So we're going to end it at the war that you wasn't ready for.
All right.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate your time.
You're very welcome. I appreciate you also.
And we're going to continue.
All right. I look forward to it.
Okay.
Bebo.